You know, I was out in the little town of Ipapai, Utah, on the Nevada border years ago, and there's Randy Laird and I were out there helping move some cattle from the Vernon Church Ranch out to the Summer Range, and we went in the store there, and there's a guy in there buying supplies, and we got to talk to him a bit, and his name was Claud Dallas, and a few years later he got into quite a bit of trouble, and this is the story about Claud Dallas. In the land of Spanish once it called Northern Mystery, the rivers run and disappear, and the Mustang still lives free. By the Devil's Wash and the Coyote Hole, in the wild Hawaii Range, somewhere in the sage tonight, the wind calls out his name. Come gather round me, buckaroos, there's a story I will tell about the fugitive Claud Dallas who just broke out of jail. You might think this tale is a history from before the West was won, but the events that I'll describe took place in 1981. He was born out in Virginia. He left home when school was through. In the deserts of Nevada, he became a buckaroo. And he learned the ways of cattle, and he learned to sit a horse, and he always packed a pistol, and he practiced deadly force. Then Claud, he became a trapper, and he dreamt of the bygone days. He studied bobcat logic in the wild and silent ways, in the bloody runs near Paradise and the monitors down south, trapping cats and coyotes and living hand in mouth. Then Claud took to living all alone, out many miles from town. A friend, Jim Stevens, brought supplies and he stayed to hang around. That day, two wardens, Polk and Elms, drove in to check Claud out. They were seeking violations and to see what Claud's about. Now Claud had hung some venison. He had a bobcat pelt or two. Polk claimed they were out of season. He said, "Dallas, you're all through." But Dallas would not leave his camp. He refused to go to town. As the wind howled through the bull camp, they stared each other down. It's hard to say what happened next. Perhaps we'll never know. They're gonna take Claud into jail, and he vowed he'd never go. Jim Stevens heard the gunfire, and when he turned around, Bill Polk was falling backwards. Conley Helms, he lay face down. Jim Stevens walked on over. There was a gun near Bill Polk's hand. It's hard to say who'd drawn his first, but Claud had made his stand. Claud said, "I'm justified, Jim. They were gonna cut me down. And a man's got a right to hang some meat when he's living this far from town." It took 18 months and 15 men to finally run Claud down. In the sage outside of Paradise, they drove him to the ground. Convicted up in Idaho, manslaughter by decree. 30 years at maximum, but soon Claud would break free. Now there's two sides to the story. There may be no right or wrong. The lawman and the renegade have graced 1,000 songs. And the story, it's an old one. A conclusion's hard to draw. But Claud's out in the sage tonight. He might be the last outlaw. In a land the Spanish once had called the Northern Mystery, the rivers run and disappear, and the Mustang still lives free. And by the Devil's Wash in the Coyote Hole in the wild Hawaii Range, somewhere in the sage tonight, the wind calls